Greetings, friends. My name is Primrose, and I am a garden fairy. Now, I don't know how much you know about fairies, but there are lots of different kinds of fairies. Garden fairies are very special fairies that live amongst the flowers. Every year we're there to take care of the newest flowers, and every time a new flower blooms, there is another garden fairy that is born. Today, I would like to share with you a special story about one of my very special fairy friends. Her name is Bryony Rose. It's called The Fairy Who Sings. When a new flower blossoms, a fairy is born. But one day as it blossomed, a fairy was torn. Little Bryony Rose had no wing on her right. She was born on this day with no power of flight. That's Bryony right there in the middle. See her with the yellow wing? Now her other wing was torn, so it's not very helpful for her when she wants to fly places. Neither magic nor fairy dust helped her to fly. Try as she might, she couldn't soar in the sky. The fairy had spirit which came from within. Bryony Rose was determined to never give in. But a mean fairy watched with a wry, wicked grin as Bryony tumbled and fell in a fast flapping spin. It was a fairy named Lavender who was so mean. She said, "You're the worst fairy that I've ever seen." Bryony Rose was confused and she started to cry. The fairy was laughing. She said, "You cannot fly." Then Lavender flew off with lightning speed. She sniggered and said, "You will never succeed." Even amongst the fairies, sometimes there are fairies that are not very kind. Little Bryony ran home as fast as she could, safely back to her house in old Bluebell Wood. As she returned, Bryony saw without fail an envelope sparkled. The fairy had mail. Inside were details of the grand royal ball. The scared little fairy now questioned them all. "But what if they stare or make fun of me? I don't want to go. I'll just stay in my tree." Little Bryony Rose really longed to go, and tears she now wept, for she felt really low. So to help her forget the restraint of her wing, with a heart full of sadness, she started to sing. One of my very favorite things about music is that you can always find a song that goes with your mood. There are songs for the times when you feel happy, songs for times when you feel mad, or songs when you feel sad, and even songs for when you feel silly. Bryony Rose was very sad, but she was able to sing a song that made her feel better. Her voice was delightful, a pure, lovely sound. It didn't take long before news spread around. A unique little fairy was hiding nearby, with the best gift of song, though her wings couldn't fly. All the fairies are listening to her music. The fairy folk gathered at Bryony's home. "Oh, please," they all shouted, "you can't stay alone. We wish we could meet you, oh fairy who sings. It's good to be different. We've not all got wings." Bryony Rose looked around. She was cautious with doubt. Creatures and sprites, some with wings, some without. They all looked so friendly, they made her feel good. She stepped out to play as she's wished that she could. Then Bryony said, "I can see that it's true. I can't wait to be friends, so I say thank you. You have helped me to see that I need to have pride." Bryony beamed with delight, and her tears she dried. Her gift spread quickly all through the land, and Bryony's songs were in major demand. "Can you help with the music?" a fairy would cry. "Can you help us keep rhythm to dance in the sky?" Bryony offered her gift any way that she could. She wanted to help because it made her feel good. Bryony Rose became glad to be special, unique. Her dreams and her future no longer looked bleak. Bryony wasn't the same, but she felt really glad. That mean little fairy couldn't make her feel bad. With help from her friends, she could fly up high, too. There just wasn't anything Bryony couldn't do. Bryony Rose looked back on all she'd achieved. With herself and her greatness, Bryony believed. When the king heard the rumors of Bryony Rose, "I must meet this fairy," he said as he rose. The king asked that Bryony come to the hall. He invited the fairy to sing for the ball. "Oh, of course," little Bryony answered with glee. "Who'd have dreamt that the king's guest could be me?" As a royal honor, Bryony sang for her king. The fairy stopped dancing to hear the girl sing. After Bryony sang, she enjoyed the grand ball. She was glad for the strength to attend after all. The king spoke meaningfully with Bryony Rose. "You're a perfect young fairy, from your wing to your toes. As your king I am proud. You have courage and talent." And young Bryony blushed as the king was so gallant. "Oh, thank you," said Bryony. "Courage is new, as a fairy once hurt me with words that weren't true. But my songs can heal wounds I have gratefully found." The king replied, "Bryony Rose must be crowned." "I can't believe it," Bryony cried. "Of myself I am proud. I will never let fear hold me back now," she vowed. Bryony Rose had developed a love for her wings. She was happily known as the fairy who sings. And that is the very end of the story about my friend, Bryony Rose. I hope that you have a most wonderful and magical evening,